In this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about how to do really, really well in the assessments. Not just your National 5, but your higher as well. How do you get those top marks? How do you come out with an A? Well, the simple answer is that you slowly, over time, grow your vocabulary. So that on the day of the assessment, you get to show that vocabulary off. And your vocabulary is like trees or a plant. Trees and plants, they need light. They need exposure to light every single day so that they can grow. If they don't get exposure to light, then they can be left a little bit stunted. So if you look at these trees down the bottom, here's an example of two trees at the bottom of the screen. Their light's getting blocked out by other trees. They're not growing as quickly. They might get there eventually, but they're not quite as tall at the moment. Now, your vocabulary is the same. Instead of having to expose yourself to light, you need to expose your mind, your brain, to words and vocabulary in order to grow your vocabulary further. If you commit to doing that, you can launch your vocabulary into the stratosphere. I mean, there's no limit to how high you can go. As far as you want. The world is your oyster. And eventually, if you do this every day and develop a really strong vocabulary that you have quick access to and confidence around, the world is your oyster. You can literally go anywhere, do anything. You'll be able to argue your case, represent yourself, represent other people really, really well. Now, the original question I asked you is how? How do you grow your vocabulary? How do you go about doing this? Now, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, this idea that to grow your vocabulary, you just simply need to read. And it is true. But I'm going to suggest something different in this video, slightly different than going and making sure you read your novel every night. I'm sure you've heard, you're blue in the face here from parents, grandparents, teachers, guidance teachers, etc. about the importance of reading. They're right. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm not going to sit here and try and retell you the same thing. Ideally, in an ideal world, I would like you guys reading newspapers. The reason for that is the National 5 exam is based on non-fiction text, so non-fiction is not made up. So your stories, all your Harry Potters, your Twilights, your short stories, they're all fiction. Your National 5 Close Reading exam is not going to be on a novel or a story. It'll be on something from the real world, non-fiction. And likewise, all newspapers are based on non-fiction. Now, I know the world has changed. I know that when I grew up, my parents always had a physical newspaper. There was always one sitting on the kitchen table. Someone went to the shop, picked one up, and I had easy access to one. I was very, very lucky. But even now, when I go to my parents' house, when I visit them, all these years later, decades later, there might be one there on a Sunday, but the rest of the week, not really, because they'll access the newspapers in the same way that you and I do on our phones. Now, newspaper reading at the outset doesn't seem that exciting. I wish I could make it exciting. I mean, it was something like this. You know, if you had a limited amount of time before it exploded, and added a bit of time pressure on it, then perhaps it would be a little bit more interesting. But what I'm suggesting to you today is really short bursts of reading. Really short bursts of focus reading. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. I want you to develop a habit. Now, you've got lots of habits at the moment. You've got good habits and bad habits. Maybe you have a good breakfast habit, like you have a great big bowl of healthy cereal before you go to school or at school. Maybe you have a good exercise habit. Maybe you have a good study habit already. Maybe you've got some bad habits too. I want you to create a really good vocabulary habit. And for this to work, you're going to have to do it every day for 5 days. Right? And then it has a good chance of embedding as a habit. If you just do it once or twice, it won't become a habit. I can tell you now, it'll just be something interesting you did for 2 days. But if you can do it for 5 days in a row. So what I want you to do basically, not now, but at the end of the video, I'm going to ask you to go to this website. It's called iNews. Now, a little bit of history about this newspaper. It's a physical newspaper. You can buy it, but we're only going to be interested in the web version for now because it's free. The iNewspaper was created by the people behind the Independent newspaper. Now, the Independent is a broadsheet. It's one of those papers that looks quite intimidating when you look at it. It's got very small fonts, not too many pictures. It has very dense vocabulary, lots of tricky words in it. And they realised, well, you know what, there's lots of people are kind of afraid to pick up a newspaper. They kind of feel it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. So they created this, the iNewspaper. It's the same news. In fact, they shared some of the same journalists and everything. But what they've done is they've used very specific vocabulary so that it's non-threatening, so that people aren't put off, And they said, well, what do people actually want to read about? Just, ordinary people going on their way to school, on their way to work, wherever they're going. What is it that they want to catch up? So they're aiming for the biggest broad spectrum of people that they can. So if I show you here, that's the website. That's all you need to know. All you need to know. inews.co.uk. inews.co.uk. You're going to go to that at the end of this video. So let's have a close look at that front page. So there's something for everyone here. I mean, if I'm looking myself, I'm kind of thinking my eye is drawn straight to number 4 here, down the bottom. I'm drawn to the fantasy football and the 5 goalkeepers to sign. Maybe you're more interested in the review of the finale of Love Island. Maybe that show was of interest to you. But over here on the left, they give you your essential 5 pieces of news a day. Now, what I'm going to suggest to you is that you're going to read 2 a day, about a minute each, so minute and a half maximum, so 2 to 3 minutes a day. That's all I'm asking you to invest, 2 to 3 minutes a day for 5 days. So we're talking about 10 minutes total over 5 days, or 15 minutes at a push. So it's not a big investment in time, but it can have a huge change in your result of what you get in May in your close reading. So I'm suggesting you read 1 for fun and 1 to launch your vocabulary. So my 1 for fun would be the Fantasy Football League, because I genuinely want to see what goalkeepers they've picked. I might put in the Fantasy Football League team this year. And for my second one, Dixon's Carphone, not really. None of these other ones am I really drawn to, but I'm going to pick one anyway, because I'm doing this not for fun alone. I'm doing it because I want to grow my vocabulary. So I'm going to pick this one here. Okay, I'm going to pick number 5. More than 20 million Britons accept lifts from drunk drivers. I find that really hard to believe, that 20 million people will get into a car with a driver who's drunk. Now, I've actually already read this article. I read it just before I made this video. And I picked out the interesting vocabulary from one article that took me just over a minute. I said about a minute and 10 seconds it took me to read through the article. Now, on the next slide is all the vocabulary that was there. Have a look at this. Have a quick scan through the words yourself. Some good ones. Prosecution, tolerance, intoxicated. Now, that's one article. Most of the article was much simpler words. These were the most difficult words in there. Now, the chances are that you'll know many of these words, but by reading them every day, what you're actually doing is you're increasing the likelihood hugely that you will use those words and that you'll have access to them when you need them. You need them when you're writing your stories, when you're writing in other subjects. But in the close reading, crucially, you need it in this use your own word section. If you don't have a developed vocabulary, when you find that answer, you find that caterpillar, and you're asked to change it into your own words, if you don't have the vocabulary to change it, you're going to struggle. Whereas by doing this short exercise every single day, you will expose yourself to so much great vocabulary. And if you come across 1 or 2 words a day, you go, I don't even know what that means, by all means look it up. The most important thing is to expose yourself, like those trees with the light, to the vocabulary. Now, what I want you to do now at the end of this video, and do not go on to the next video until you've done this, is I want you to set a reminder that goes off every single day on your phone, right? An alarm. I want you to pick a time that suits you, a time when you're generally on your phone anyway. So for me, I'm very busy during the day. I'm a teacher. I can't use my phone in class, anything like that. My lunchtime, I tend to just be eating and catching up and preparing for other classes. I've got young children, so I tend to be busy in the evening. So it's actually about 8 o'clock at night before I really get to settle down and, just have a look through my phone and catch up on the different apps I like to go through each day. So for me, 8 p.m. would be a good time. It could be a totally different time for you. Maybe you get the bus in. Maybe you arrive or get a lift in and you end up arriving at school a lot earlier than your friends. That time, you'll know there's a time in everyone's day when they're on their own and they kill time by just swiping through their phone. That's the time I want you to pick. And set a reminder. And if you're able to add a note to the reminder, just call it iNews, right? Or check iNews, read iNews. And for the next 5 days, when your reminder goes off, I want you to go to iNews on your phone, just in the browser. There is an app, but you don't even need to download it. It works absolutely fine in the browser. I want you to pick 2 articles, about a minute each, minute and a half each, and I want you to read through them. 1 article for fun, so flick through, could be about sport or celebrity, anything you want, whatever you're interested in. And 1 that is one that you wouldn't normally pick, that you think, oh, I wouldn't normally go for that, but I'll probably learn something from it. So one for fun and one that you're going to learn extra vocabulary from as well. You'll probably learn vocabulary from the one for fun too, but chances are you'll learn a little bit more from the one that pushes you out of your comfort zone a little bit, because quite often we use the same vocabulary with our friends each day. I use the same vocab with my colleagues in work every day. With my family at home, we tend to talk about the same things in slightly different ways. So to push our vocabulary, we need to get out of those regular situations. So the website again is inews.co.uk. I'll bookmark that in your browser so it's easy to find. Set your alarm. Do it for 5 days. I absolutely guarantee if you do it for 5 days, you're more likely to continue. And if you do it long term over the course of this year, or however long you've got left now until the assessment in May, or your prelims, you're going to see better marks. You're going to grow your vocabulary. And more importantly, it's more important than that assessment. When you walk out of school at the end of 5th year, at the end of 6th year, wherever you're going, you need a developed vocabulary, because that's you're armed to go into the world, to find your place in the world, to do well, to get a well-paid job, to enjoy your life. Right? You need a strong vocabulary to do that. So find your own motivation. What is it? What is it you want to do later on after school, when you finish school? So that will hopefully again gain you confidence around words. Just because you're spending more time with them, most importantly, you're exposing yourself to the words. Like I said at the beginning of this video, like these trees, they need to be exposed to light in order to grow. Expose yourselves to a few interesting, challenging words every single day, and you'll be shocked and amazed at how rapidly your vocabulary will grow, how suddenly you start being able to use those words in new contexts, and hopefully how well you're going to do in the final exam. So promise yourself you're going to give it a go. 5 days only, and in the next video we're going to start looking at an actual example of a use your own words question, where we do both parts of the formula, find it and change it just like you have to do in the exam. And I'll see you there.